Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today as we're sitting here watching some NFL football on Fox right now. Got the Vikings beating the 49ers. This has been a fun game to watch, but we got to sit down and we got to start talking about some wrestling because come next Sunday, we got a decision to make with WWE running Hell in the Cell up against Sunday Night Football. I'll tell you honestly, the buzz about this show isn't really the best. It doesn't really have a strong reaction to what's going on in WWE right now. But on paper, when you look at this card, this looks like a really, really good card. Honestly, as a wrestling fan, following the product, the only thing negative about this show is that they're following it up with the WWE Super Showdown live from Australia, which is a WWE Network, I guess you can call it an exclusive special. Maybe you call it its own pay-per-view. It is kind of weird because it is from Australia. It is going to be sort of run in the middle of the night. You got to sort of make plans for how you're going to watch this, if you're going to watch it live or if you're just going to watch it sort of whenever you get some time and sort of treat it like it's an old Coliseum home video, like the, what was that show from Milwaukee that came out on VHS? I can't remember what it was, but it had Andre and Hulk in a steel cage match. And the only way to get your hands on that was if you were to find somewhere you could rent the Coliseum home video or to buy it through the WWE magazine. But that was like one of the biggest shows that was exclusive to Coliseum home video. That was the only way to see it back in the day as a kid. Looking at this show, and a lot of these matches on the show already have been announced to have rematches or another match or something, coming off of this match already at the Super Showdown. I know that with the two shows being so close, you can't drastically change a lot of the storylines that are going down to make the Super Showdown make sense. So, to announce that matches are already going to be having rematches, like we have the SmackDown's Women's Championship, you have Charlotte versus Becky. That's probably one of the most talked about matches on the whole card. And it's already announced that they're going to be running again at the Super Showdown. So I know that it sort of takes out of it that we already know that they're more than likely going to be doing rematches. They don't very often do one-offs on WWE pay-per-views. Most feuds last 3 months, so they can sort of cycle people around, keep things fresh, but at the same time make the matchups and the feuds mean something to what's going down. But to already announce that there's going to be another match in a few weeks sort of takes it away from it in my mind. This show has already been announced that it's going to be having 2 Hell in the Cell matches. One of them is going to be Brock Lesnar going up against Braun Strowman. No, I screwed that up. I apologize. One is going to be Roman Reigns going up against Braun Strowman, and the other one is going to be Jeff Hardy going up against Randy Orton. Honestly, in my mind, Randy Orton versus Jeff Hardy, I'm not 100% sure if that demands to be in a cell. It's probably not even the hottest feud that is going on SmackDown. It would make more sense if Samoa Joe and AJ Styles were in there. But, it's always been a career quest for Jeff Hardy. He's done just about everything involved in WWE, but in about every interview, he's, said that one of his goals is he wants a match inside of Hell in the Cell. And it would have made a lot more sense if it was the Hardys. We got to see our first Hell in the Cell tag match a few years ago with the Usos and the New Day battling back and forth. And that was one fun encounter. It was a really good match. Jeff's going to go in there solo. He's going to be going up against Randy Orton. Orton's a guy who's had a whole bunch of Hell in the Cell matches. Some of them were good. Some of them were just there. So it is what it is. But I'm sure Jeff's going to find a way to give us a highlight to see what's going down. Roman Reigns is going to be taking on Braun Strowman at Hell in the Cell. Still a little bit weirded out about this. I don't really understand if Braun was just named the #1 contender, or did he have to cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase in order to get this match? So, is he going to be able to cash in after the match is done if he was to lose and immediately cash in and say that he has the briefcase? It sort of sounded like he cashed in, but I'm not 100% sure. Into what's going down. You got AJ going against Samoa Joe for the WWE Championship. Should be a good match. You got Rousey going up against Bliss over who has the best armbar. Charlotte and Becky, the feud over the championship as well as their friendship. You've got Daniel Bryan and Brie Bella going up against The Miz and Maurice. It should be a good match, but then again, Bryan and Miz are having a match at the Super Showdown to see who the number one contender is. So this one is more of a payoff to see, whose wife is going to be able to handle themselves inside of the ring and keep the feud going. So this looks like this is going to be a good show. We don't have any 205 Live matches. We don't have a pre-show match. So more than likely, we're going to see something like, Ziggler and McIntyre getting added a match, more than likely against the B team. So there's still stuff to be added, but we'll go over the matches that we got and see what's going down. This should be fun. Sunday, WWE Network, Hell in a Cell.
Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today. We're sitting here talking about WWE's Hell in a Cell 2018 coming right up around the corner on Sunday, and I guess you can call it one of the co-main events of the show. Is going to be tag team champions Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre going up against two members of The Shield, Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose. This is going to be a really good match right here. The only thing that I have going on is I don't really understand what's really going on Monday Night Raw. I do understand The Shield got back together. They're all healthy. They're all baby faces. We tried to have one heck of a Shield run back in the late part of 2017. They were going to team up for TLC. And then Roman Reigns got hurt. He was replaced by Kurt Angle. I think they ended up finally getting the band back together around TLC, which had been later in the year. And then Dean Ambrose got hurt. So we don't really know what the end run of the Shield reunion of 2017 was supposed to be. If it was supposed to lead up to maybe guys having a match at WrestleMania. I know that people have been hoping for a Shield triple threat at WrestleMania for years. I know that we did get one around the time of the brand split when they were all fighting over the WWE Championship, which Dean Ambrose ended up winning after the whole Money in the Bank fiasco of Roman Reigns being beat by Seth Rollins and then cashed in on by Dean Ambrose. So in the matter of one day, all three members of the Shield held the championships. But we had the Shield reuniting and then basically coming down and stopping Braun Strowman from cashing in. Does make sense, trying to make sure that the championship stays in the group. It doesn't matter who's the champion as long as one of them is going to be the guy. But then we see, I guess you can call it a union of Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre, co-conspiring maybe with Braun Strowman to find a way to beat down all three members of the Shield, trying to make Braun Strowman stronger. But the whole thing you have to wonder about is, why is McIntyre and Ziggler helping Strowman? Yes, it did work out. They were able to defeat the B team to become the tag team champions. For a little while, we sort of thought that Ziggler and McIntyre were going to be in that tag team hunt. It didn't really have the strongest tag team division on the Monday Night Raw brand. But what does McIntyre and Ziggler have to bring to the table to help Strowman? I can understand having Strowman in their pocket to help them with the tag titles. But why do they care that Strowman is the champion? There is no real lines to sort of draw these guys together, other than that all three of them are big heels on the Monday Night Raw brand. So that's the stuff that really doesn't make that much sense to me. That's got me wondering what the heck's going on. But when you get these guys in the ring, there's no doubt in my mind that we're going to have a really good match, as long as they don't make it harder than it seems. My guess is that they're going to keep the tag team titles on McIntyre and Ziggler at any cost possible. But I'm wondering what this leads to down the road. I was kind of wondering if maybe they were going to do some sort of a six-pack challenge. Or maybe I don't really see a six-man tag main eventing a pay-per-view. I can definitely see that main eventing house shows, as well as main eventing maybe Monday Night Raw getting all 6 competitors in the ring to battle it out. But are they going to have some way to have all 6 of these guys in a singles match where everybody's battling it out, and then you basically see the lines, who's going to turn on who? Obviously everybody wants to be the champion, but they probably want to keep the championships in their group. So do the Shield sort of work together to make sure that Roman is the champion, or are we going to see a moment where Rollins comes through and says, I have a chance to win the belt for myself, so I'm going to take it? And then you see Roman sort of getting upset, like, why are you trying to pin this fool when I'm the champion? And then you see like the friction sort of build up in the Shield and see where that's going to. I know that we're still months away from Survivor Series. We still got some time before that, so I don't see this breakup coming sooner than later, but something's got to happen with these guys, and I want to see what it is. So we'll see what goes down on Sunday. We got Ziggler and McIntyre. My bet is that they're going to be keeping the gold, and the Shield will be finding themselves frowning back to the locker room.
Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today. One of the big matches that's going to be going down at WWE Hell in a Cell 2018 is going to be Jeff Hardy going up against Randy Orton. For the past month, we've seen Randy Orton making his return to WWE, coming down and not really having a purpose or anything involved in the matchups of Jeff Hardy against Shinsuke Nakamura for the United States Championship, other than a lot of people were thinking that Randy wanted a way to get back into the United States title picture and was just trying to become the #1 contender to whoever won this feud. But instead, Randy just kept on picking on Jeff. At one point, he was grabbing him by his ear with his ear piercing and sort of stretching it out. I'm not hip to know what that really is called when you get the big hole in your ear. I think it's called like gauges or something like that. But he was just ripping Jeff's gauge, just pulling it out. And I guess for people that have gone through that, they were able to experience how much pain that would really be when somebody's pulling on your earlobes like that. But, Jeff and Randy have gone back and forth, round and round. Of course, these guys had the big matchup at the Royal Rumble a few years back. The lead up to that is where sort of Jeff Hardy jumped off of the Monday Night Raw set, hitting Randy with the big senton. That was a big Monday Night Raw. I guess you can call it a highlight that people look back on, for years. Sort of putting it up there with Shane McMahon doing the big fall off of the SummerSlam tower years back. So these guys have a history. To put them in the Hell in a Cell, honestly, in my mind, the first thing that comes to my thoughts is that Jeff Hardy has had it as one of his goals, is that he has wanted to have a match in the Hell in a Cell for a long time. It's one of the things that he's not done in his career. If you think about everything Jeff's done, going back to the Hardy Boys days, with him, having steel cage matches, TLC matches, tables matches, ladders matches, chairs matches. He's done, the final deletion matches with him and his brother. He's done, just about everything, especially whatever they call the TLC matches. In TNA, I can't remember what they called them there, but he's done just about everything. Even though I don't think that Jeff versus Randy is the biggest feud that is going down on SmackDown, I will tell you that I do have high hopes for this match. And I think that I'm also attracted to, Roman and Braun have had a history of having good matches, as well as I think Becky and Charlotte, with their friendship. I think they're going to go out there and have a really good match to sort of boost the SmackDown's Women's Championship. Those are probably the matches that I'm watching the most for, but I think Jeff's going to make it a goal, is that he wants to go out and do something that people have never seen before. You go back and you listen to the SmackDown edition of Cheap Heat with Rosenberg. We heard him talk about him wanting to have a match in sort of like that WCW style of ring that would go around in a circle for the fans sitting there. That he would want to jump off and do a swanton off of one of those, having to time this jump, how he was going to hit his opponent with the ring, sort of circling on that podium. The other thing is that he wanted to have this Hell in a Cell match. What is he going to want to fight up top? Is he going to do something where he jumps off to the side? The one thing that I think about Randy is that he's had Hell in a Cell matches in the past. We've seen him in there with John Cena. I think he's had 2 with Cena, and I know that he's had other ones that, nothing really jumps out as being a great match. It's just sort of like a match. It's like every Randy Orton match that, we've ever seen. Touchdown 49ers, that's what I'm talking about, guys. But, it is what it is. So I am expecting to see a good match. We'll have to see what happens with this one. I don't even really know how to pick a winner in this. My guess is that I hope Jeff wins. But, seeing Jeff wrestle for a long time, sometimes I think that Jeff doesn't really care about winning as long as he's able to deliver something for the fans that they've never seen before that'll leave them happy or give them a memory to remember them by. So, there's lots of talk about Matt being done with WWE. I know that Jeff could continue as a singles guy, but at the same time, you got to sort of be thinking about Jeff's family and, how long Jeff Hardy is really going to be able to keep going at this pace. So, you got to be wondering if he's going to be looking to take some time off and get out of the ring, and keep himself healthy, for that sort of, WrestleMania, Royal Rumble run for WWE. So, we'll see what goes down with that. Lots of stuff to talk about in the upcoming time. But for right now, I guess I'm picking Randy Orton to get the win in the Hell in a Cell match.
Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today. We're talking here about WWE's Hell in a Cell 2018 show. Another big match added to the card. Brie Bella teaming up with her husband Daniel Bryan, going up against Maurice and Miz. This is the second time we've seen the tag team of Maurice and Miz. The last time, of course, was at WrestleMania, going up against John Cena and Nikki Bella. Maurice, always one of my favorite wrestlers during that whole Divas era that went down. I honestly always thought she was a really good worker. I know that she's in a different place in her career right now. Going into that WrestleMania match, I really wasn't expecting a whole lot from her. Now here she is coming back from after having a baby. I know that, Miz and Maurice play up this whole thing from Total Divas, as well as from their own reality show, that Maurice was a big part of the WWE Women's Revolution, how she was the Divas champion, and she was going out there and having 2 or 3 minute matches on Monday Night Raw, trying to make her championship reign mean something. I loved the hair flip. I loved that when she would pin people, she would, sort of use that hair to her advantage, sort of draping it down in their face, almost as that last minute insult during their match. I always really liked her, and I think it's going to be fun having her around, even if she is not a real full-time part of the roster, for her to be brought up and sort of used, even if it is just like once a year to mean something, even if, they can't really think of another place to use her, if, they were to team up against Lana and Rusev, or if they were to team up, against what I call the main event of SmackDown, the whole Cien Almas team. I think that would be really fun if they find some way to use them like that. But it's hard to talk about the WWE Hell in a Cell match with Miz and Maurice and Daniel Bryan and Brie Bella without talking about the fact they've already announced that they're going to have a singles match at the Super Showdown in Australia. That match is probably going to mean more than this tag match. Other than bragging rights, I guess you can say, because that match is going to be a #1 contenders match. So in the long run, that match is going to mean more to WWE than this is. But the whole Daniel Bryan versus Miz thing, they want to squeeze as much juice out of that as they can, because of the fact that, in WWE Universe talk, Miz is pretty much the reason why Daniel Bryan returned to wrestling, because, Miz kept poking the bear, basically using it to his advantage, that, he could say whatever he wanted to Daniel Bryan, and Bryan wasn't able to actually react back. And at SummerSlam, I think that even though Daniel Bryan lost the match, the fact that he was able to punch Miz in the face, it was all worth it for that comeback. Brie Bella, Fun to see her return back to the ring since I guess the Royal Rumble was the last time we saw her, and the time before that, I can't even really remember the last time she was around, other than I guess maybe that match against Natalya during Daniel Bryan's retirement thing, which would have been like 2 years ago, where she basically stepped away to get herself ready to become a mom. So having her back, I don't know why Brie Bella is like the new Chris Jericho of the WWE brand split. If you go back to like 2009, when all of a sudden Jericho was just able to appear on both shows. He would appear on Raw as a tag team with Big Show, and he would appear on SmackDown as a singles guy. So every once in a while, Vince is gonna look at the rules and just say, "Fuck it, we're gonna do whatever we want to do." The Bellas, they're pumping up the whole Divas Revolution, the Divas Evolution show, and Brie and the Bellas are a big part of it. So put them on Monday Night Raw, and we'll figure it out later. And I think when it comes down to it, I think Nikki is on SmackDown as well. I don't think she was ever drafted over to Raw, so I don't know how they'll figure out talking about that, but they got a match coming up on Raw to hype up the Evolution show coming up. So this is going to be a fun one. I think that honestly, when it comes down to the match that really means something, we got to look at the Super Showdown. That one's going to be for number one contenders match. I'm not sure who to pick in this one. I guess I would pick Miz and Maurice to get the win here, because I think at Super Showdown, I think Bryan's going to get the win there. So that one's going to be a hard one to talk about until this one plays out. But this match doesn't really mean anything. It's just to get us to that next one, even though that Super Showdown show in the long run is going to be a lot like that whole Saudi Arabia show, which is going to be a big show that makes you want to subscribe to the WWE Network, and you're glad that you got it. But, when it comes down to it, I don't think anything's really going to happen. But it's going to be fun to either see Miz or Bryan go after that championship because we've been looking for it for a long time for both of those guys.
Hey, what is going on, guys? This right here, Charlotte versus Becky Lynch for the SmackDown's Women's Championship. This really is the money match of WWE's Hell in a Cell pay-per-view coming up on Sunday. I think that most people sort of look at this feud as probably the best feud that WWE is running right now. There's two different ways that you can look at this feud. You can look at the fact that Becky Lynch was named the number one contender to go up against Carmella at the last WWE pay-per-view, SummerSlam. But then Charlotte Flair butted her head into a promo between Carmella and Becky Lynch, and found a way to get herself into the match at SummerSlam, making it a triple threat by beating Carmella on an episode of SmackDown. Immediately, we saw on the face of Becky Lynch that she was discouraged, that Charlotte had sort of butt her head into this match, and she knew that she was in trouble. Charlotte ended up going into SummerSlam and winning the championship. So you can look at it as, Charlotte, she earned a shot to go after that title. But should she have taken it if her and Becky were as good as friends as we were led to think, over the time? These girls, battled it out in NXT, but both came to NXT as a part of Paige's team, the whole submission sorority, as they were named for a short little while on Monday Night Raw, to go up against the Bellas, as well as go up against Team Bad. They had always sort of stayed on the same side of every fight that they'd ever been in. A lot of people have always sort of foreshadowed the four horsewomen of WWE going up against the four horsewomen of MMA as a match that could be happening. And then, of course, you look over to Monday Night Raw. We saw the team of Sasha and Bayley falling apart. But then, of course, Becky Lynch and Charlotte was the team that fell apart before, that team even got a chance to have a match on Raw or on pay-per-view or anything like that. So, Becky looks at it as, Becky had a shot to go out for the championship, and Charlotte didn't really want to go out for the title until Becky got the shot to get it. So it's almost like you get a nice, shiny new toy, and then all of a sudden the kid across the street who wasn't that good of friends with you, all of a sudden he wants to become the best friends in the world with you because he only wants to come over and play with that nice new shiny toy you got. So, I really think this is going to be a good match here to go off of the friendship that they have, as well as look back at their past in NXT. I know that they've had matches on Monday Night Raw and they've had matches on SmackDown. I think that, at one time, they tweeted out the fact that Becky has got more wins over Charlotte than Charlotte has over Bayley. I'm sorry, that Charlotte has over Becky. So that's one thing for you to think about. I know that they're going to have immediately another match at the Super Showdown, so I'm not sure if this match is going to end in some sort of a disqualification or some sort of a funny finish, but no matter what the finish of this match is, we're going to go right into the Super Showdown, where I think they're going to try and treat that like it's going to be the bigger match. So I wouldn't be surprised that Charlotte escapes out of Hell in the Cell with the championship, but then we see the title change happen on the Super Showdown, which is going to be coming up on the WWE Network live from Australia. So I think that's the match that more people are going to be looking forward to see. Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you. One of the biggest surprises from WWE SummerSlam 2018 was how easy Ronda Rousey became the new Women's Champion of Monday Night Raw. We were going to see the rematch at WWE's Hell in a Cell 2018. Alexa Bliss was immediately able to say that she wanted her rematch, and it's going to take place at Hell in the Cell. And now she's coming in saying that she has a better armbar than Ronda Rousey, and that is how she is going to be able to defeat her. To the point where now WWE is, putting the question out there, who has the better armbar, in your opinion? There's no doubt in my opinion, no one is going to do it better than Ronda Rousey. This one could be a little bit tricky, seeing how this is Ronda going into her first title defense. This is Alexa, I believe, like a 5-time women's champion in WWE, going between the Raw and SmackDown brands. She is always going to be in the thick of it, and although sometimes you see an immediate rematch before sort of, throwing them back into the heap, and then, the new champion going through new defenders to give people a new shot after going for the championship, seeing how Alexa's been in the thick of the championship picture for the last good while for Monday Night Raw's brand, sort of find out who else has something to add to go after Rousey. This could be tricky because we've seen Alexa lose a championship and immediately win it back before, and sort of add to the whole Ronda Rousey chasing the championship. Yeah, she was able to achieve the dream, but they're going to make it seem like this is a whole other sport. This isn't MMA. She doesn't have the immediate advantage of being the toughest woman out there. She could be outsmarted. A lot of things that you see them do with a lot of babyface champions, especially first-time babyface champions, but I'd love to see Rousey just go in there and just win that championship back again. Alexa Bliss has been sort of, traveling around with her new stable of friends, Mickie James, as well as Alicia Fox. But Rousey, always has Natalya in her back pocket as, one of her friends to have. So we've been thinking for a while that Natalya would stab Rousey in the back. I don't know when that is going to be. We haven't really seen any foreshadowing of that feud coming, so I'm not quite sure what could happen, but my prediction as of right now for Hell in the Cell is that Rousey just gets Bliss's arm and just tears that sucker off. We might see a little bit of a longer match, but I think that the outcome is going to be the same, with Rousey holding that championship up, claiming to be the still champion of the Monday Night Raw brand for the women's division. SmackDown's big belt, the WWE Championship, is going to be on the line with AJ Styles going up against Samoa Joe. This, of course, is a returning match from WWE SummerSlam 2018, which I think ended in disqualification with Samoa Joe getting the win, but AJ Styles keeping the championship. All I can really remember was the big, the kaboom on top of the announcer's table, and of course AJ Styles walking out with his family through the crowd. Of course, this is the Samoa Joe attack of AJ Styles by trying to get him out of his game. Was mostly by, attacking AJ Styles as a father as well as a husband, basically saying that he cared more about being WWE champion, that he cared more about his family, and that, just really trying to draw him off of his game to bring him to the championship. I know that this match is one of the few matches that's going to be replayed come the Super Showdown in Australia. So that is going to be a weird thing to have this match happen and then happen again. The only thing I can think about is when AJ Styles was going up against Shinsuke Nakamura, we kept thinking that at WrestleMania we were going to get the match of a lifetime, something that would be Wrestle Kingdom worthy, but we never really got something like that to happen. And then of course we thought at the world's greatest Royal Rumble, well, this is where they're going to go out and they're really going to blow the doors off the place, and they didn't do it again because right after that they had another match, and I can't remember what pay-per-view that was. And by that time I think a lot of people like me were just like, forget it, we're not going to get that match that we thought we were going to get at Hell in the Cell. I really think that AJ Styles and Samoa Joe should go into this match with a chip on their shoulder. They did not get to have the SmackDown Hell in the Cell. It's nothing against Jeff Hardy and Randy Orton, but in my opinion, the feud with the championship should always be the biggest feud that there is on the brand, and they're not getting the match to be able to go into Hell in the Cell. And not every Hell in the Cell match deserves to be in there, but if anything, I mean, this with a feud involving a wife and a son, to me, honestly, that is where you just sort of throw the rule book out the window if you're AJ Styles, and you use anything that you can possible. And getting this match inside of the cell is possibly the best way to do it. And who knows? I mean, I'm really throwing it all out there in future booking what could be happening, but Samoa Joe could do the whole thing again where he calls out AJ's family sitting at ringside, and maybe the wife or the son hits the button to make the cell drop, and then this match unofficially becomes a Hell in the Cell match where you actually get to see that involved. So we've seen that AJ gets mad enough that he wants to use chairs. So they have to have a plan. I mean, maybe this is going to be used down the road at TLC or something like that. So they keep bringing more elements of weapons into this, but we'll see what goes down. This is going to be a big match. This is a match that definitely fans care about. I'm excited about it. So as of right now, I love AJ Styles, but I hope Samoa Joe gets the win, leading to this having a big match at Super Showdown.
Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today. Last night, we had a change to WWE's Hell in the Cell pay-per-view. We have Braun Strowman going up against Roman Reigns. I still honestly don't know if this counts as Braun Strowman's cash-in. I guess we're just going to have to see how it plays out. When it comes to the Money in the Bank briefcase, they make up the rules as they go along, so it is what it is. I remember when it used to be brand exclusive, and then I remember there was a chance that John Cena was going to get a chance to steal it, and it was the SmackDown brand, but he was going to take it to Raw. All sorts of weird stuff. So it is what it is. When it comes out, when they play out the story, we'll figure it out. So I honestly was watching Raw last night. I was flipping back and forth between Monday Night Football, and I can't even honestly tell you if Braun Strowman was carrying around the briefcase. I don't think he is. So maybe he had to give it up, or maybe he's just, got a safe place for it to make sure nobody steals it from him, if anybody was going to steal from Braun Strowman in the first place. But we do have something new. Mick Foley putting his foot in the door of the Hell in the Cell, basically wants to talk and rant about how much it changed his life, how much, it took away from his career. He gave everything he could. In my mind, Mick Foley is definitely in two of the most popular Hell in the Cell matches of all time. In my mind, the Triple H versus Mick Foley Hell in the Cell, which was supposed to lead to Mick Foley's first retirement, even though he came back for WrestleMania 16, otherwise known as WrestleMania 2000, 1 month later. That is honestly one of my most favorite matches. And, of course, Undertaker versus Mick Foley from The King of the Ring is probably one of the most popular, one of the most famous ones. I watched this one last week as I was going through and, watching all the old Hell in the Cell matches to get myself fired up and put myself in a place to see if anything in today's age of wrestling is going to be able to compare to those old ones, and I don't think it's going to. I honestly stopped watching them at one point because I was like, today's new style of wrestling with like the sort of PG era, we're not going to be seeing Shawn Michaels dripping blood on the cameraman from the top of the cell down below as he's getting pummeled by The Undertaker. It's just not going to happen, so you can't really compare them to those. You know, I think honestly around 2009 is when Hell in the Cell changed to its new style of just sort of being a wrestling match inside of the cell instead of being a brutal encounter, comparing itself to some old NWA style, just, you know, leave everything on the mat where you just bleed everywhere and sort of do the whole, you know, red is money kind of deal. Red is green, I think is how Tony Schiavone puts it. Mick Foley, you know, being the special guest referee, we've seen this before. Especially we've seen this before in Hell in the Cell. The first match that came to my mind was Kevin Nash against Triple H. In my opinion, I love you, Triple H. You know this. You're one of my favorite guys of all time. I put you number 1, maybe number 2, and it changes, you know, depending on what I'm talking about. That match was horrible. And I don't even really know why Mick Foley was in it. And I think it honestly was pretty much the same reason it is now. I think that, you know, they brought back Mick Foley thinking that it was going to bring a little bit more enticement to it. I know that WWE Network is going to be showing the 20 years of the Cell show that Mick Foley put on. They put on one of his live comedy specials before. In my opinion, it did not translate well to television. I saw Mick Foley live here in Sacramento. I can't remember what it was, the Laugh Factory or wherever he came here. It was a cheap show. I think it was $25. It came with a meet and greet. I honestly thought it was easily, you know, one of the best things I've ever paid for in wrestling. The show was fun, but I think it was the environment. I basically was sitting at Mick Foley's feet. Noah Adonis from No DQ was there sitting at my table. I met a few other people that you know, watched my videos, and I watched their videos, and I talked to them on Twitter and things like that. So I think just the atmosphere was a fun place to hear some wrestling stories about, you know, The Rock and Mick Foley going to a sex club in Germany and just seeing some guy, you know, pummel, you know, some girl. I mean, it is what it is. So, we'll have to see, you know, what comes from this. But like I said, we've seen Foley be the special guest referee in Hell in the Cell, and it's not like that guy's going to be taking any bumps or do anything physical in the ring. So it's just might as well be another, you know, special guest referee. Most of the things we've seen from Foley in years past is him doing sort of comedy spots with Santino and other guys in the Royal Rumble, and I don't think that's what he's going to be bringing to this match. So maybe I got to give him credit for more than what it is, but I don't know if you can really take Mick Foley serious in today's wrestling, knowing that this guy can't go in there and take any bumps because, you know, they're just not going to let him. He's not the Mick Foley of 98, 99. It's just the way it is. I mean, people get older. Braun and Roman, we've seen these guys get in the ring before. We've seen these guys have physical matches. I think that, you know, Braun and Roman were having matches leading up to WrestleMania 32, leading up to WrestleMania 33. People were kind of skeptical when Strowman had the match against Brock, and he lost because at that time I believe he was, you know, close to being undefeated, or he, you know, had been on one hell of a streak, and they'd been pushing the hell out of him, and it seemed like the match just happened and it just was over. And it wasn't like, you know, Braun just threw the guy around like a sack of potatoes, but he beat him pretty fast. I wouldn't be surprised to see, you know, Braun beat Roman and take that championship and have the Shield go on, you know, a run chasing the championship. Maybe they could even bring in the belt to the Shield, where Rollins or maybe Ambrose gets into there, and that sort of brings, you know, sort of like who's going to beat Strowman, or are they going to beat him as a team? Only one guy could be champion. So how's this really going to play out? And, you know, it doesn't really make sense for Ziggler and McIntyre to be hanging out with Braun, because aren't they a team going after the title? Like, they didn't become a team just to protect the championship for Braun Strowman. They got to be wanting it soon too. So what are they really building to? Part of me thinks that maybe we're going to see a six-pack challenge come that might lead to the breakup of the Shield. where all 6 guys are going after the championship. But the one thing that's also in my mind is Roman just beat Brock. This was something that we've been looking forward to seeing since WrestleMania 31. And now here we are years later, and, Roman's just going to lose the belt in his first title defense after finally beating Brock Lesnar. He should be going on the longest title reign of all time. He finally beat the beast that no one could beat, who held that belt for, well over a year. He beat CM Punk's title reign of the modern era. People say it's a different belt. It is what it is. I mean, it doesn't matter what belt it is. He still held that damn belt forever, and he held it longer than Punk did. And he didn't fight as much, but he was beating, basically the same competitors that CM Punk was beaten. But I could see this going either way. At this time, I'm really picking Roman, but at the back of my mind, I'm saying, this doesn't make no sense. So you sort of have to figure out where they're going from here. They're not putting the Shield together to not put them in a pay-per-view style match where they're going to be able to make money off of them. So something has to be coming up sooner than later. We're going to have to figure out what it is, because Survivor Series isn't until Thanksgiving time in November. So that's still down the road, and they probably want to have the Shield together for Survivor Series, so you can't be having the breakup right now. So are they going to be putting the title up in some sort of a 6-man tag? Yeah, that don't make sense either. So we'll figure this out. But, the Cell is supposed to be beating the hell out of each other, and they'll probably go in there and they'll do some big spots, but we aren't going to see a match like we saw before.